Ma'am, welcome speech prior കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടല്ലേ?
Ananya, you start. Start with your welcome speech.
So I can start now?
Yes.
A very good morning to one and all present here. My name is Ananya Anson, and it is my greatest pleasure to welcome you all to this wonderful session. First, I would like to welcome Ms. Anita Sunil. A clinical psychologist by profession, Ms. Anita has been serving the society in India, Oman, and UAE for the past 28 years. She is currently working as a consultant and therapist for victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, and child abuse at the Dubai Foundation for Women and Children. Thank you, ma'am, for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us today. I would like to welcome our director, Father Dr. Matthew Vatatara CMI, and our principal, Father Ajish Puducherry CMI, without whose assistance this event would not have been possible. Next, I would like to welcome our HOD, Amu ma'am, and all our beloved teachers. Last but not the least, I would like to welcome each and every one of you to this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ananya. To brief you about the program agenda, today's session will be followed by the launch of an awareness video made by the second and final year students of the Department of Model 1 Finance and Taxation, which will be followed by a question and answer session. Now, I would like to request our resource person of the day, Ms. Anita Sunil, to kindly take over the session and address the gathering.
Rajita, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. The screen is visible.
Good morning, Rajagiri. Good morning, Reverend Fathers, all respected staff, and a very, very good morning to all my dear friends, young friends out here. First of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and interact with all of you from across miles. And I think that is the first biggest motivation each of us could take in forward today, to have this kind of an awareness session planned by the management, as well as to show that they take care of you as students, to help you and enrich you with such global causes where each of us play a very important role. So I hope I will be able to give you as much as information possible in this short time. As you all know, this topic is not an easy topic where you can finish it in 1 hour, but I'll try to do justice, because I believe that today this session is going to be an eye-opener for many of us, as well as help us to ascertain certain things in the field of abuse, which will take us forward to join hands and advocate and work towards helping such victims. So thank you once again for that lovely introduction. And I hope we will have a good session forward. So I invite each of you to pay attention. And I'm so thrilled and so it's a great pleasure, I think, to see so many participants live on screen, which is also one reason that shows that we are all with the same thoughts as we join hands together this morning. Thanks to the organizers, especially for all the patience they had in getting me to do this morning session for all of you. So as this beautiful title says, Understanding and Preventing Relationship Abuse. These 4 words, if you look at it in depth, has a lot of meaning, my dear friends. It's not easy, because I know this whole session is going to be a little heavy, but I still think it's very important today, because we can talk and talk as much as we want regarding this topic, but we may not reach all that we want. However, I still think, let me start with this session today. And according to the American Psychological Association, this any session that we do, especially during the pandemic time, has very very, very important pillars which we need to focus. And these 5 pillars which I'm talking about should be the pillars that each of you would take back from here when you start your work in any field of awareness as such. So the first pillar is connect, as we are all doing today, connecting with each other from across the miles, which is the best thing, to understand what abuse is, support one another or support people around us, and share whatever knowledge we have, which again we are here for today. Ask for help, ask when you require some support, when you need to advocate for somebody, because you cannot do it alone sometimes. And also you have to really focus on the exploration of resources. And that's the one reason why I'm here today. So this is from my perspective, but you will have to work with your national perspectives when you look at abuse and relationship issues that you need to work with. So exploration is something which we all need on a daily basis to become more resilient as well and deal with all the difficulties that we have from day-to-day challenges. So what we will see in today's webinar would be, I would first talk about what is domestic abuse, because I feel it's very important to know the standard definition before you try to advocate for somebody. Especially when you look at abuse, it's not easy, my dear friends, to go into someone and just say, oh, I'm here to help you, I want to support you. But if you don't know what you're doing, I think that is where you might mess up things. So today's session probably will give you a wide perspective as to what you're asking for and what you want to do for somebody. We will also look quickly at the types of abuse and the signs which you can look for. Of course, in abuse, always we need to know what are the risk factors, because that also lead to prevention. And finally, with prevention and advocacy, it's so important that you should know where you stand and what you're asking for. So this is where we would focus today. Now, to move on, as a standard definition of the United Nations, when you look at domestic abuse as such, domestic abuse is also known as domestic violence or intimate partner violence. You hear it in different terms in different parts of the world, or for a specific condition. So actually, it is actually a pattern of violent behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner, or usually which takes place at homes. It could be at homes or it could be outside homes in any relationship. So basically, it is where you dominate the other person with unnecessary power and try to intimidate this person to follow whatever you want, just because you love this person or just because you want to be with this person. So this is a simple definition, if you ask me, of what domestic violence is. Or moving on, before we even move to the signs and symptoms, I've just picked up a few very important facts for you to understand what is domestic abuse, because we all have a lot of information regarding this, right? So we need to now understand that certain facts, regardless, it's a global issue. If you look at it, domestic violence is a global issue, and it is regardless of age, race, gender, sex orientation, faith, or class, which I see in my everyday consultation or support that I render. And always these behaviors are very scary. They can really be terrorizing. They can be so humiliating. They can blame. You know, a lot of blame and guilt is not good for any one of us. And these leave eternal scars for any one of us. So, and it can happen to any race, any culture. It's not that, okay, since we belong to this culture, we have domestic violence. No. And it also affects all people of all socioeconomic backgrounds. Sometimes I'm very surprised when I see so educated people who beat up their partners, or who doesn't have the resilience or adjustment skills with the people in their home environment or at the workplace. And this used to surprise me in the beginning, but now as time went, and with all my 11 years of experience, especially working with violence and helping them, I've corrected my impression, which no books could teach us. Also, I would like to tell you 85% globally of all domestic violence cases are mostly women, and most of them are not reported because they are really suffering with the stigma from their family or the culture as such. It can include even a child in domestic abuse. It's not just for adults alone, or it could be somebody staying in the house. It could be a maid, it could be a relative, it could be an extended family member, it could be parents with adult kids around. So societal attitudes, beliefs, and all the abuser's personal history also counts when we talk about domestic violence and its issues regarding this particular subject as such. Now, looking at what are the different types of abuse, I'm sure each of you would have heard of or come to some conclusion. So the major categories which we see globally, anywhere for that matter, is physical, verbal, things. Especially we see this in intimate partner violence, and that is stalking. Now, is it possible, because I'm doing the talking, is it possible if one of you could also respond? What do you think would be physical abuse? I'm not looking for definitions, just a few characteristics. When you say physical abuse, what do you think is the characteristic of a physical abuse? Or what are the signs you see in a physical abuse? Can we have one or two of y'all? Anyone could talk, please? To start for me? Is anyone going to talk? Okay, so I take it forward here. Rajita, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. So if you look at the physical, it's very, as the word denotes, it is more of the pushing, the punching, the hitting, maybe it's a pinching, or probably it could be any form of violence which leaves physical scars on the victim. And these physical scars should be very evident. It could be even very, very dangerous, which can even lead to death. So it could be just a pushing down and you happen to hit the wall of the room where you are. So you cannot say what kind of impact the physical abuse will cause. So physical abuse is quite dangerous. Moving on to verbal and emotional, it always comes together if you look at it. So in verbal abuse, it's like calling names, saying that you're useless, you are good for nothing. Maybe you're blaming your family, blaming your parents, blaming all your friends who are supporting you, talking bad about them, trying to create unwanted proofs against them, trying to character assassinate you, which will give you an emotional impact where you will be crying. And let me tell you, my dear friends, every time when you work with violence victims, the toughest part in this whole thing is to understand and prove that you have an emotional abuse happening. Even verbal abuse, maybe some people make recordings and they can, have a proof. But in emotional abuse, the victim is the sole person who goes through all the trauma, who goes through all those very bad feelings, the guilt feelings, the blame, the disgust, the helplessness, the hopelessness which she is going through. So, or he is going through. Emotional abuse is something where we as therapists find it very difficult to work with as well, because sometimes you find you cannot think for this person, because you just need to empower this person, build the
Anita, ma'am, I think there is a connection issue from your
coping
end.
skills to help him or her activities which is not used. Sorry, Rajita.
Ma'am, I think there is a connection issue from your side. It's fine, ma'am. Okay, fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so as we talked about the sexual, we are moving on to the financial abuse, where most of the time in financial abuse, it's very clear that the person is not allowing you to spend your money, trying to take your credit cards, your bank cards, trying to keep money with you and not giving you your rights. Sometimes you might be drawing a very good salary, but they forcefully take everything from you and you are given very minimal, or you're not allowed to spend. You're questioned all the time. Now, I don't want anybody to make issues because of this, but it's just to understand the nature and pattern of abuse, where I'm forced to say it. But it's not that we need to go back and say, oh, you're I'm being abused because you're taking all my money. You're asking me extra money. No, not at all. There is a criteria, dear friends. There is a classification. There is a categorization. And it's only experts like us who will decide and categorize that you have a financial abuse. It is just for information's sake, because when you're trying to help somebody and they can say, no, it's okay, it's not an abuse, but I feel very sad. All my money is being taken off. All my jewels are being taken off. So I don't want one of you to stand and say, oh, it's okay, it's family, it's culture, please go through it. That's why I have to discuss this, but not to use it against somebody, please. Now, the last one is stalking. I'm sure many of us would have gone through by now stalking. So stalking is something where the abuser is always following you, always trying to come behind you, always trying to find out what is happening to you, trying to gauge you from a distance, trying to monitor your phones, your media, trying to understand whom you're talking to against the abuser. So stalking is very, very common, especially in intimate partner violence. So we see most of it happening in intimate partner violence. Now, moving on to the risk factors, as I discussed with you, the past history of violence of the abuser is so important, my dear friends. Maybe the abuser also as a child would have seen or witnessed domestic violence or gone through the violence issues as such, and definitely he thinks it's a very normal reaction. So I've had clients who would tell me, I had a client who was a 19-year-old girl, and she was like really under abuse. So I happened to meet the couple, and the husband, I don't know why she's making such a big complaint, why she wants to talk about it, because my mother was hit by my father. He has even kicked her, and she never said anything. And she was still staying with him. She never complained. She never complained to anybody and cry about all the look how the abuse has been raised. And he expects or she expects the same thing to happen. Marital discord and dissatisfaction. Now, in any marital relationship, the highest risk factor is when they start having minimal problems. So this is why we say today we have everything available. We have a lot of resources. So if there is something like that, it's always nice to see a counselor or marriage therapist or counseling therapist who will help you understand. Witnessing violence is very important. Again, harmful use of alcohol. So when most of the domestic violence cases in homes, we have also seen there will be a substance abuse, and this can cause a very disturbing pattern of behaviors in the person who's consuming or getting addicted to this substance. It will influence the person, the partner who's living with them, or the children, or the extended family, like parents or brothers, sisters in the home environment. So this is, again, it can also affect the work environment. So community norms that privilege higher status to men. I'm not against any men here, please don't take me wrong, but certain communities, if you agree with me, have men as dominating cultural situations where they feel, I'm your husband, I'm the person looking after you. So please, you have to, not even please, you have to just listen to me. That's it. So in those situations, can we have a risk factor because the victim is not allowed to even expose her situation or talk to anybody. Low levels for women being paid because most of the country or national policies don't allow women to have equality. And that is why if you look at the UN, we have every year on International Women's Day, gender equality being stressed more and more every year, where it has reached to organizations where they even promote in organizations within the national level as well as the international level, more women being taken as part of their staff. So these things are some issues which we can face as part of the domestic violence if a person is going through. Now, as we talked about the signs, the types, and what are the risk factors, I just like to share with you this morning a little bit of details, because this is usually our job when we work with situations similar to this. So every domestic violence or intimate partner violence, if you look at it, has a battering cycle. So when you are trying to advocate or when you are trying to help someone, it's very important for you to understand the battering battering cycle. It is very interesting, and that's why I wanted to share with all of you this. So if you look at the battering cycle, you have the phase one, which we call as the tension phase, So here it's like you see the first picture where the rains are just forming, the clouds are forming, and it's just coming. So in the abuse, there's increased tension, anger, blaming, arguing, calling names. So it's still manageable, you know that, okay, there's going to be a tension. There's going to be something's not going to work right now. My partner is going to scream at me, or my partner is very upset. I can see the mood changes. So this is the phase one, which we call of any battering cycle. Now, if you look at phase two, it's more interesting because you will have all those, it's already full blown now. Everything is going to come down now. Everything is going to fall down. So it is like already the rain is coming. The dark clouds are still very bad, trying to be very rude to them, trying to be hitting them, beating them. It's all more physical. It's not talking to them for days together, or trying to deprive them. No, you will not go outside today. So it's like actually a repercussion of the phase one, where you literally see it. The phase one is only when there is already the honeymoon phase. It's a little funny way to say it, but this is something very interesting, because this is why the abuser continues to do the abuse, as well as the victim does not want to leave the situation. So in the honeymoon phase, it's always a calm stage. They might give a lot of reasons, I was drunk, or I was not in a good mood. I was not, maybe I had a problem in office, and this is why I shouted at you. I have anger management issues. Please bear with me. I really love you. I love the kids. I want to stay in this relationship. I know that you work very hard for the family. So please forgive me for this. So it's like, I promise it will never happen again. I will try my best to do. We can go for counseling, or we will take support, but it's very short-lived. So if it is short-lived, the abuse can still happen. So what happens, it keeps going in cycles. This is why we call it a cycle, the battering cycle. So it's very important when we work with violence victims. It's so important to know which phase they are in, and why is it that they are not going to complain or take action to support or help themselves. Moving on now, I like to also introduce very, very important characteristics of the abuser, because I have maybe about 20-25 characteristics which I can discuss with you, but just because of time constraint, I will just tell you the most important, where you can significantly look at these things happening. So every time, if you look at it, the abuser is very controlling. Everything is within their control, and they do not let you feel responsible for taking your own decisions. Even the clothes that you need to wear will be decided by them. I have certain clients where I've seen certain families where the food which the child should eat is always decided by the older adult in the house or by the partner. And this mother has no right, or the father has no right in voicing out his or her opinion. Now, please do not take it to granted that it's only women who get abused. I do see a lot of men in my practice as well who are victims of violence and abuse. So it is in all, both sides. It's not just the women alone who goes, but majority we've seen women coming. Why isn't men coming up is a big concern. But today, I think there's a lot of awareness created, and we have men also feeling the importance of taking support, trying to help themselves, because the main reason what I have seen is it's the stigma attached to it, that men, oh no, you shouldn't complain. You should just go through whatever it is. You are the man of the house. If you talk about your abuse, or if you discuss with it, people might think you're not worth it, or probably you're not a good person, or probably you are not a person with very good skills. So this stigma factor in our cultural societies are still prevailing. So very, very often we don't find men standing up and talking for their rights or asking what is important for them. So again, feeling entitled, confused love and abuse. Sometimes they might say, oh, it's because I love you. I don't want you to go through this function that you're planning to go to. Oh, because it's because I love you that, I don't want to waste that money that you are spending now. So it's like the victim or the person who's going through the abuse, even though they are so focused and they have all resources with them, they might totally be in a confused situation where they really don't know what is right, what is wrong, what is the truth in it. So this is why we say in domestic violence or any abuse situations, we therapists work with victims with the main intention that we need to empower them, and above empowering, it's to help them not be confused and be focused. They need to take relaxation techniques, especially to help them regain their focus or try to focus more in depth in what is priority with them. Twist things into opposites. Abusers are very, very smart. They like to have a very good people's image. So they can just turn outrightly and tell that what the victim said was not true. Or sometimes we usually say they're very good speakers, they're very good orators, they're very, very good at telling what they have to showcase about a particular issue that they are going through. So what happens is already the victim is intimidated, there is power issues, control issues, confused with love and abuse again. So they do not, most of the time I've seen my clients just keeping quiet. They always tell me, Anita, we really wanted to talk, but at that particular moment, I don't know what happened. Everything stopped. So this is why we say they twist, they manipulate, they want to have a good image, and they always feel justified. They give you reasons. They're trying to advocate for themselves. They tell you, no, I've been very, very, focused, and I want to help the family. I want to take care of my wife and kids. I want to take care of my parents, or I want to do this, do that. But it's not all the time true. So it's very important when we work with family situations, we always try to listen on both sides before we help them make a decision, and also fail to accept responsibility. It's not my responsibility, it is your responsibility. You are the mother of the house, you work with the children, or you are the father of the house, you bring the money. I'm not going to do anything for you to support. So it's always a combination of all these things which lead to further complicated personality makeup of the abuser. Coming in, now let me introduce what are the effects of domestic violence. So we have 4 major blocks of or situations where you are going to be affected in, if you live, it's short-term or long-term abuse, what we call effects of are short-term or it can be long-term. So when you look at the physical factors, you have a lot of things associated with your body, like you cannot sleep, when you go to sleep, you have nightmares, you are not able to sleep, you're always trying to question yourself, you have somatic complaints, because obviously when you're stressed out and when you have reached an exhaustion stage in an abusive situation, my dear friends, it's not easy. It's very difficult for you to understand even what's happening to you. And this is why therapy helps at times. Psychotherapy is very helpful because it really helps you to connect with yourself when we teach clients certain exercises. So chronic health problems, so the short-term effect conditions or the body conditions like pains in different areas. And if you don't look at it, or if you neglect it, you're going to have chronic problems which affects other organs in your body. Substance misuse, yes, alcohol and other forms of substance can come and play a very important role, because I know many people who would tell me, oh, when I have this, I'm in a different world, Anita. I'm not focusing on this. I feel peaceful. I'm like feeling relieved. This is my relaxation. No, I don't agree with it, because this is something which you're misusing without going to the actual problem and taking support. Death resulting from physical abuse, yes, we've had many cases in the history of my practice where we've had permanent injuries which would cause some sort of disability even, or it could be death at extended forms, and we hear it globally happening. Now, emotionally, if you look at it, the most important difficulty, the effect that we have is you go through this abuse at a daily basis, or probably weekly or monthly basis, that you become emotionally numb, my dear friends. You don't know what's happening to you. You have very low self-esteem. You always have shame and guilt coupled together, and you have a lot of grief. Sometimes it could be personal losses. Sometimes when you're trying to sort your issues out, there would be threats happening to you. And then you take it as a self-blame, because you feel, okay, I'm responsible for it. I'm the one who has to adjust. I'm the reason for it. So unnecessary, you try to confuse yourself and put you into this, we call it it's like a whirl pool, if you look at it, it's an emotional turmoil, otherwise, which you can call. And it's very difficult to come out of it if you don't take support. Fear of the abuser. Even a small fear, if you agree with me. Some of us are very fearful of insects. Some of us are very fearful of pets, animals, or anything. Or even if somebody shouts at a loud voice, some of us are very scared. We get intimidated. Now, this is all, imagine, this is just something which I'm talking very lightly. But imagine living with the abuser on a day-to-day basis, not expecting what's going to happen. So this is something which will emotionally drain you and make you very weak, make your self-esteem feel, and the words they use at times, like you're useless, what are you contributing to the family, what are you doing, what did your parents send for you? So these are terms which will really kill you or crush you, and by the time you remove the creases and come back again, you will have to build up all that energy. And if you don't have a support, remember, you're doing it by yourself, even though you're a very strong person, but it will drain you in course of time. Look at the behavioral issues that you can have in future. Basically, you will try to have negative self-defense mechanism developing within you to escape various patterns of the abusive behaviors or the abuser as such. So what is going to happen, even the good situations, you might try to avoid and not take it up for yourself or for your family. Mood swings, ups and downs. Sometimes you feel you have all the energy to do the work at home. But then the minute, I know many families, family, probably I think I should say joint families, or maybe even individual people within a family, nuclear family as well, who will tell me, Anita, up till 7 o'clock, we are very happy. We have everything which we can concentrate on. But the minute the abuser comes home, that's it. Everybody is like on the gauge. They cannot do. They're so fearful. They're on the lookout, watchful to hear if something goes wrong. So what happens is when you have children, you're going to transfer the same emotional or mood difficulty to them as well, because they are looking at your behavior, your actions, your emotions, your facial changes, gestures. So it's so important to understand what the behavioral aspects is because of this reason. Controlling emotions, adjusting to employment. Now, if you're a working person, you're going to go, if you have a physical abuse, you're going to go to office with a bump on your face, or maybe it's a black mark on your face. It could be a bruise which people could notice. And how many times are you going to tell them, oh, I had a fall, I did, I went out. So these are some of the, the pointers or the red flags where you can see people from physically with physical issues which they have. 100% they're going to project it when you happen to talk to them. Or some of them might say, you invite them for a get together, and they might say, no, I don't want to come. So it will happen on a regular feature for when you interact with a person in abuse. It's not going to happen once or twice. And then you might have those, your antennas or your feelers sensing something. So again, withdrawal, flashbacks, nightmares. And if you look at the social things, it's still more difficult, First of all, you won't have friends. You will not be allowed. I know many abusers who stop their partners from even interacting with their own parents or with their friends. When they know that that's one friend talking to them, they all get all the more agitated, and they do not want her to interact with this friend anymore. I know abusers who have stopped their partners from working just because they have some good time in office. So what happens when this goes on? You will start feeling lonely. You will be disconnected from the society. You will be disconnected from your family and friends. And this is the worst that any one of us who's a real social being can go through, because we can never be without family and friends. We really need to be with them or talk to them, not to complain about your abuse or abuser, but even to have some light moments with them would give you all the strength and courage to battle this issue. Now, these are things which all of you need to keep in mind, especially when you see somebody going through an abuse, or you can see these evidently on them when they talk or the way they behave with you. Now, moving on, there are some barriers which I like to share with you this morning, which prevent people from leaving. So when you advocate or when you want to help somebody who's going through an abuse, we always find that we have a lot of challenges. And the biggest challenge I face would be with children, or due to lack of financial resources, or due to lack of proper immigration facilities, or the condition which allows them to stay in a particular country as such. with the immigration issues or the naturalization and residency department, which gives us all our privileges to stay in a country. So it depends from country to country when I'm talking about this. Now, generally, some of the most important factors would be fear. Yes, fear of losing everything, fear of not having the partner staying with them, fear of taking up new responsibilities, fear of losing the partner if they have kids and giving the children their role models of the father or the mother. Love. Even though you will see, I've seen so many of my clients, they've been abused so badly, physically, mentally, drained out, but they always tell me, Anita, I just want to try again. So, of course, I'm a therapist who would always say, yes, there is a last chance. I always believe in this phrase, my dear friends, last chance. And we need to fight up till that last chance to take the final decision. So in this particular issue, love, I see, is a dominating factor. Whenever I do interviews with media, they always ask me, Anita, why can't these victims leave? Why are they still hanging on? Why are they still clinging on? So I have to tell this very particular funny factor of love. Most of them I see still have an element of love and they have the right to it. But as long as they are safe, I would always like to support them. Emotional, again, they are very weak. They feel that, the abuser has made them so weak, or the family has made them so weak that they're not confident whether they could start a new life. So my job sometimes is to help them rebuild the life with the given resources. Support, again, now you have support, financial support, support as a parent, support from the living conditions, like people here out in our region, you need, sometimes you're not working, you need to have a home, and this should be under your name. So the most of the time, the home is under the abuser's name. So how do I go back? How do I find, again, coming to companionship? Will I find a new person if I leave this relationship? What will I do in the new relationship? Will I be able to manage the new relationship, the new person coming into my life? This is all the question of companionship, which we become very insecure. Again, needs, as I told you, there could be financial needs, there could be environmental needs, living conditions, support, all these basic needs. If you all know the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm sure you can look through it. The basic needs, if you are not gratified, you will not be happy. You will not have a good life, or you cannot continue living in a very safe environment. So needs are something which all of us struggle with on a daily basis. Now, looking at the cultural factors, 100%, if you all agree with me, we still see this happening, whichever part of the world globally you are. Just because you're you have a very good family name, just because you hail from a good area, you have a very good reputation, please stay on. You have the family telling you, oh no, this was not, we all went through it, please stay on, do not go, do not leave. So your friends might say, what do you do if you leave? Maybe I might not be able to support, my family might be against you if you have a good friend who was supporting you till then. So these cultural factors are not going to change, my dear friends, unless you and me stand up and advocate for this particular cause and let these victims understand what their rights are. So coming on to one important, very, very important, always battle, and I should I can tell you it's one of the most toughest part to work with children, because I always feel they are silent sufferers. I call them silent sufferers because most of the time they're not able to tell you. I've had 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, believe me, who are literally struggling, seeing the parents shouting, screaming. If you look at these pictures that I have here for you, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. So when we look at the 3 very dominant areas of children being witnessing and getting affected with abuse, it's the emotional and physical effects. So these emotional scars, I always tell parents, they are not to be seen. They eventually grow up with a child, and this is the child who you will see in the adult stage. So it could be a very difficult adult, it could be a very difficult person as such themselves individually, all because they witnessed this part of emotional and physical effects which they went through during their childhood. And definitely the personality makeup is going to be affected. You can have a sadist being raised, Or you can have a person who do not feel. Most of the children, sometimes in a domestic violence situation I've seen, the only way they know how to get their rights is to shout, scream, hit. Why? Simple reason, because their parents are role models, or the adults are role models, their caretakers are role models, and this is what the child is modeling basically. So whenever I work with adults and I know that they have children who are in the same environment, I always make it a point, my dear friends, to spend some time with these kids, to assist them, to help them understand what are the coping techniques they need to learn in such a situation. Behavioral, yes, a lot of behavioral issues happen in them, because as I told you, the only way they know is how to shout, scream, or voice out for their rights in the wrong manner. And also, if you look at it, these little kids who, for no fault of theirs, for no reason of theirs, are small bullies whom we adults are grooming. So this is something, actually in this part of the world, we even do have anti-bullying programs. So we'll come to it at the end of the session when we talk about advocacy. So the social effects would be, while they're living in abuse, most of the children are deprived. I've seen this happening very often. They have a party, but who's going to drop them? Both father and mother are busy fighting, or they're not talking to each other because they just had a battering cycle phase, and the child is left at home. So you're depriving the child of going to a party, which probably is the only time the child is enjoying, having some good moments, lighter moments. So what happens in course of time? They're not going to be welcomed by their friends. Everybody's scared of them, or maybe their friends come to their home and they see the parents fighting. This child is secluded, because all kids have fears. So naturally, they might go back to their parents and tell them, oh, today I went to so-and-so's house and this is what I saw. So at the other parent at the receiving end definitely is petrified. So they will say, oh, no, please don't go to your friend anymore, or just stay away from them. I know many parents who do that. So this is the saddest thing. And that's why I call them silent sufferers. And just because they do not understand what abuse is, some of them even take it as a normal way of living. So please, my dear friends, if you know children who are going through abuse, concentrate and see what we can do to help these little children. Now, moving on again, a safety plan is very important when we work with domestic violence or any abuse victims. And this is why I like to just briefly share this part to you, because when you're advocating and trying to help someone or trying to create awareness, there is this part which you can concentrate and you can understand or keep in mind when you are trying to talk to the victim or the person who's going through abuse and looking for support. So the three major areas where we focus or we need to focus is when they are preparing to leave. So normally what we do is we always tell them, this is your right. You need to keep all your documents safe. See, our documents are so important, because it's not that now today, thanks that we have so much of technology, we can make duplicate documents, but the stress or the effort that you need to put in is going to cost a toll on you. So what is happening is, most of the time we don't get time to run behind all these things. So we ask them to keep all documents safe, to have an extra set of keys to the house, keys to the car, having all their license, especially the driving license, safe with them, documents like passport, other personal belongings, certificates, all these should be very safe, or having everything given to somebody whom they can trust, or taking copies of these and keep sending it to a very good friend or a family member whom you can trust. Because the thing is, when you're in violence, everything is in doubt. You don't know who's going to help you, who's not going to help you, who's going to talk behind your back. Maybe your common friend can even try to help you, but by giving the false information or wrong information, or giving the abuser your plans of, oh, she's going to leave home tomorrow and she's planning to go to this friend's house. So your plan is already dead there. So you need to be very sure that you can trust the person before you make a plan to leave. And at the same time, if you have kids, you also need to prepare the kids so that they don't get a shock when you suddenly take them out of the home environment and put them in a new environment, which is totally new to them. Safety on the job, very important. If you have a very good boss, if you have a very good organization who's supporting you, who knows what you're going through, it's so important to let them know if it's safe to take care. Sometimes we have abusers going back to the office premises and telling them, oh, she's very bad, she doesn't do anything, she's this, 10 sets of issues or problems they're having, and even character assassination happens here. So it's always nice to keep your job on safe level, because having a job, my dear friends, gives you the financial independence to make certain decisions like this. The third very important thing is you should have a very good knowledge of very good resourceful person supporting you when it comes to your national level of policies and rights that you can avail. Or basically, if you have a survivor-centered response plan for them, where they can go to, whom they can talk to, whom they can complain, or whom they can take support. Is there a shelter available for you? This is so important when you're talking about the safety plan. So I think now, quickly, I'll give you a small exercise, because we are hearing all about abuse, right? So I'm sure you all heard about NATO. So NATO was the first organization to make these phonetic alphabets with the 26 codes. And I'm sure all of us are very familiar with it, but probably we do not realize the importance of it. So I just have a small activity. If you have pens or your phones are also fine, I just detach you from this abuse situation, which we've all been hearing now for the past, I think, almost 40 minutes, which is really too much, I feel, dear friends. So pick up your pen, pick up your phone or whatever it is, and you will have 26 codes which will come on your screen. Now, I want you to take your first name. Like if my name is Anita, I will only take Anita, A-N-I-T-A. So your task is find out what is your name in the coded phonetic alphabet of NATO. Okay, so this is a treaty organization which was signed by the European countries. So this is a code which shows that you're like a fighter. You're going to fight. Actually, after the session, I'm sure all of us are going to be fighters, because we're trying to become little ambassadors or advocates for abuse and violence within your college or within your communities. And I'm sure all you lovely ambassadors are really going to take home all that you have heard this morning and see what you can do. So the screen will show you different alphabets, codes, which you will use for your first name, only first name. And once you do it, read it to yourself and see how good you feel and what your name stands in coded form. Okay, so this is the screen for you. Now, you can use this to find out what your name is. Your time starts now, quickly. We don't have time, but you have to take this time out to do this exercise. Can you see my screen, Rajita? I'm sure some of you have long names. It's okay. It's just a chill out task for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Naina, have you done with it? Can you just read it out for us, your name, what is in coded form? Read it out in a very, very, very interesting manner. You can make a song, or you can sing, or you can use anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Please, thank you very much for
November Alpha Yankee, Alpha November Alpha.
Oh, that's quite a lot, Naina.
Yeah, I've got 6 letters.
Okay. Tanya, ma'am, are you there? Can I hear from you, please, what your name stands? Have you done it? Anyone else would like to read? You can, I think you can see. Rajita, what about you? Our host here. Ammu, ma'am, can I hear some beautiful voices?
Romeo, Echo, Juliet, India, Tango, Alpha.
Is that Rajita?
Minus Alpha Mike. Yeah, that was Rajita. Now it's Ammu. Alpha
Yes,
Mike uniform.
Oh, that's nice. That looks funny also.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really tired of hearing my own voice. So it gives me such a big relief and stress to hear some beautiful voices in between. Anyone else? I can see Rifa. Rifa, you're smiling. Could you read your name out?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Romeo,
please.
India, Foxtrot, Alpha.
Very good. Excellent. I can also see Darshana. I think Darshana, you want to read out your name because your face tells me so.
It's Delta Alpha Romeo Sierra Alpha November Alpha.
Wow, that's really nice. So many words in. I can also see somebody called Sen, S-E-N. I really like to hear your voice because it's all girls talking here now. Yes, Sen?
Sierra Echo November.
The shortest name ever, right? Thank you, Sen. That was really sportive of you. And I wanted you to read it out because it's only 3 letters. So the safest thing. Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to quickly tell us? One more person?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's that?
Jesslyn.
Oh, okay, please, Jesslyn. Thank you.
Juliet Echo Sierra Lima India number.
Oh, that was nice. I like the way you said it also, Jesslyn. Thank you
you,
so
ma'am.
much. So I think we'll go forward now because we are running short of time. All my lovely voices, thank you again for that volunteering spirit that you showed out this morning. Special thanks to Sen because I could only see Sen on my screen. Any other, anyone else who would like to say this? Can I move on, please? Okay, if somebody is really wanting to say after the session, I'll stay back for you, okay? So moving on, now coming to the major part as we end this session today is to talk about prevention. Now, let me tell all of you, the whole idea of when the organizers had contacted me, I think it was mainly to see how we can prevent and advocate, you being the pillars of today's the future world as well as today's world. I'm sure each of you have a very special passion or capability within you, embedded within you. And especially after listening to all this, I'm sure it's going to trigger the me within you to stand up and talk for people who go through violence and abuse, not go directly to them because there's a lot of issues which will happen and you might be in trouble or in danger. But at least if you as a team can work towards prevention, starting from your own college, and I'm sure you can do a lot with the help of such lovely teaching faculty with you who are so passionate and trying to get such awareness programs into your curriculum. So you look at it, there are 2 major components. One is the individual and one is the community. So when you look at the individual, it's you and me as an individual, as a person. First of all, you attending this session is the first step that you took in trying to advocate and learn about prevention. So this is a big, I think it's a big kudos to each of us here at this session. So again, it's a relationship factors, high friendship quality, social support, and coping skills. These are the things when we talk how you will look at it as an individual who's going through abuse or who's talking for somebody or trying to prevent abuse happening to people in your community. And when you look at the community, it is at a broader phase. It is the decision of the community, the area or the national policies or the policies within your living area, the cohesiveness of different departments, different organizations, different people who are working towards this with a passion to help people going through violence and abuse, the mutual trust or the willingness. You cannot say, oh, I would love to help you, but then just sit and empathize with the person and tell, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know how you're going through this. I don't know what you will do. I don't know. This is not prevention, my dear friends. You need to empathize with the person and you have to have a trust developed through your rapport with the person who's going through abuse or with you yourself first before you talk to somebody who's going through abuse. You can't cry over the abuse and then try to help somebody. So please be strong yourselves when you want to advocate or do something like this. Those who are not strong still have a chance where you can work in group projects or group situations. Awareness initiatives, yes, very, very important. And that's why each of you today in this session have taken this time out. I see a huge number, I should say. So we are proving here that we are all with the same temperament and we are on the same page when we talk about abuse and prevention mechanisms. So I really would like to talk now about advocating and coming to the end with one more last slide of our final thoughts as we come to the end of this beautiful morning session that each of us have dedicated today to listen and understand what we could do. So when you talk about advocating, please understand that promoting a healthy, respectful, non-violent relationship within the home environment as within communities can always prevent harmful and long-lasting effects of abuse. So it could be starting from an individual to the families as well as communities. Now, this is why you and me, we need to stay together, stay strong, and advocate within the given capacities of what we could do. Teaching safe and healthy relationship skills. So you cannot do it. Probably you can have programs where you can voice out this to make people understand. Maybe after this session or the program or the awareness initiative that you have conducted, there would be people coming to you and telling me, oh, I think I went through abuse, or I'm going through abuse, or I know somebody who's really struggling. And what can we do to do this, to help them? So it is like you're joining hands here again. So teaching safe and healthy relationship skills are so important, and you need to tell people, you need to advocate for this, because most of the time the victim or the abuser, even the abuser, needs support. Believe me, dear friends, it's not only the victim all the time. I love working with the abuser because it's very interesting, and I've learned a lot about the abuser. If I'm talking to you today about these very intricate facts, it's because I work with the abusers as well. I understand them. Most of them try to take up whatever is required to help themselves, but some of them don't do it. So you're not running behind them, but you're trying to empower and teach better coping techniques for those living with the abuser. Social emotional learning programs for youth. You as a college, you as a department, you as a team, which you did now, can continue doing this, because you need to work in groups. Even though you cannot provide people enough support, you can at least be awareness initiators. And I think that is the first step which we all need to do. Healthy relationship programs for couples. So you can probably be a inspiration, or probably you can try to have such programs. If you can get resources and give the person, I'm sure they're going to help themselves. And engage influential adults, men and boys as allies. So this is something very important, because every time when it's abuse, it's only women. So sometimes we also do have programs where we teach little young boys in schools how to learn respect, how to develop programs to help people in their society, people in the school environment, or even work towards themselves to understand what is happening. So family-based programs, again, any family-based programs which you have in your region or as a part of a college, which you can join hands with professionals and offer to particular communities or areas within your area of residence, would be very helpful to create awareness into people regarding abuse. Early childhood home visitation, family engagements, victim-centered service. Many times you will know people who are being abused who do not know a victim-centered approach. So you will be probably an inspiration, or you would be a resource to help them find out where is the center, or where is the victim-centered center available for support. First responder and civil legal protections. Most important, I'm sure people who do law will be able to understand this better. Every violence or abuse situations, and we all hear it on a daily basis in media, people around us, people sometimes going through it, that we need to be very, very resourceful and understanding about the civil legal protections when you're trying to help somebody in and abuse situations. So keeping in mind all these advocating styles or ideas where you as a college, you as an individual can join hands and do, I'm sure we can make a difference. So coming to the last slide of today's presentation, our final thoughts, our take-home message would be, please understand, my dear friends, that domestic violence is a major public health problem globally and not only within your region. And also it has very serious consequences for victims and child witnesses and the society at large. There remains a significant stigma still, I can tell you, not only here or there, it's globally that I'm talking, which is a major barrier that prevents many of us from providing help or seeking help till today. So the more we advocate, the more we create awareness, I'm sure we can make a difference to many people. Addressing domestic violence at the individual and societal level is a very, very tedious task, both from the legal side as well as the national side, policy side, as well as your individual side or a group side. But all you need to do is, as the last message, the most important message today is, please tell people that they need to talk to somebody. They need to seek professional help if they cannot go through this battle all by themselves, because it takes a huge toll on emotional and physical well-being, my dear friends, to go through any form of abuse. And if you do not take help, you can live in this cycle of abuse, as we discussed in the initial slides, for years together. I have 58-year-olds, 60-year-olds who are now realizing that they were in abuse and they now want to get out of the abuse. I still encourage them. I still stand with them, given the policies and given the situations they are in, on a safety basis, to help them understand what their rights are. Now, making the first call, I have many of my clients who would tell me, Anita, just after talking to you, we feel so empowered. We feel, we feel that there is somebody with us. We are not alone. And that is a huge difference for us professionals, for us advocating for the abuse or abuser or the victim, to help them take this first bold step forward, what I usually call. And always remember, dear friends, that no one deserves to be abused. Abuse is not something which you can handle. And please tell the victim that she is not alone, or he is not alone. And this, you will see, creates a huge impact for them to stand up, advocate for themselves, and take support. Now, I also like to share with you the WHO lives. It's called Listen when you're advocating, when you're helping victims of abuse. I love to do this because I love to share this with you today, because this is what I want each of you when you move out of the session. And I request each of you to be little ambassadors, to do small things within yourself as well as your college or your community at large, to listen, inquire, validate. Validating is very important. Sometimes you're not being told the right story. So you will need to collect that information before you take support. If you think you cannot do it, leave them to some professional to understand what's happening. Enhancing their skills, encouraging, empowering them, and supporting them are the two last pillars and the most important pillars when you advocate or try to prevent abuse happening. Thank you very much. I really do not know how to thank enough the organizers. I think Ms. Ammu, Ms. Tanya, they've been behind me all the time, right from the time this idea was taken. And the idea was, I should especially mention Naina here. She's been like, I should say, a little ambassador when she had to volunteer, when she had to work with victims of abuse and violence. And this was the whole step for this program. I'm disclosing the secret now, but I think these three individuals whom I've been working with right from the beginning had given me a lot of motivation, especially thanks to Ms. Ammu and Ms. Tanya for being very patient with me at different times and getting this organized in such a beautiful manner. Naina and your wonderful team, Rajita, the IT, all of you, my welcome address. I don't get the name, but thank you so much for this beautiful morning. I hope I could do justice to each of you here and give you enough information. So as we end today, I'm sure we could all agree this last thing, that together we all can make a difference. This is just the first step that we took. And I'm sure we can do many more things together. You can do it from there, and I can do it from here with wherever we are globally. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rajagiri. Thank you for taking this time out to be with me. Rajita, can we stop it, please? Okay. Rajita, can we stop the music?
Yes.
Okay. So there is a picture here. I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you hear it, or Rajita, are you going to play the music?
No, ma'am, we'll be playing the music now.
Okay. Just before you play, 1 second. You will see a picture here. We have been hearing about violence and abuse for such a long time. Just take 1 minute of yours to just put everything down. Disconnect from whatever you are doing at the moment. Look at this beautiful picture. I want you to travel with each of these birds who are flying in and out. I want you to go through the details of this scenery. It is just a mindful exercise that I'm looking at here. So can you start the music, Rajita, please? And please, I'll give you 1 minute. Each of you concentrate on this picture, detach from everything, and come back after a minute when I ask you to return. Yes, Rajita? Try to look at these beautiful birds. Scenic beauty around. Try to connect with them as much as possible. Try to look at the details of this beautiful picture that you have in front of you. Thank you once again, Rajagiri. Thanks to each of you here who's been attending this session. I think definitely, as I mentioned, together we can make a difference by joining hands and working towards a common cause, a global cause, how we could prevent violence and abuse or advocate for those people who are going through abuse within your respective area or zone of work. Thank you very much and have a good day, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your enlightening session. Abuse is more than physical violence. Relationship abuse is a pattern of abusive and coercive behaviors used to maintain power and control over a former or current intimate partner. Abuse can be emotional, financial, sexual, or physical and can include threats, isolation, and intimidation, and it tends to escalate over time. We now move on to the video launch. I request our dear chief guest, Ms. Anita Sunil, to do the honor of launching the awareness video prepared by our students.
Thank you very much. It's a very proud moment, I should say, to really do this launching. And I'm so proud of this department, along with those wonderful staff who've been dedicatedly helping and motivating all those students under them. It's a very, very wonderful video, I'm sure, that's going to throw light to all these things that we were discussing and talking about. So I take this honor and privilege to launch this video for the beautiful department and each member in this department. Thank you very much for having me for this.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, can you stop your screen sharing for us to play the video? Thank you.
Thanks, Rifa.
വീട്ടിലെ ജോലികളൊക്കെ പഠിക്കണം. നാളെ മറ്റൊരു വീട്ടിലേക്ക് ചെന്ന് കയറേണ്ടവളാണ്. പെൺകുട്ടികൾ 6 മണിക്ക് ശേഷം പുറത്തിറങ്ങി നടക്കുന്ന അത്ര നല്ല ശീലമല്ല.
Remove gender inequality, empower women.
നിനക്ക് വീട്ടിൽ എന്താണ് കുറവ്?
കല്യാണ കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഞങ്ങൾ മുതിർന്നവർ തീരുമാനിച്ചോളാം.
കല്യാണം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടായാലും നിനക്ക് പഠിക്കാലോ. നിനക്ക് എവിടെ പോകാനാണെങ്കിലും കല്യാണം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് പോയാൽ മതി.
പെണ്ണിനെ എത്ര കൊടുക്കും?
Have the privilege of not marrying money.
കല്യാണം കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഇത്ര ദിവസത്തിനുള്ളിൽ നീ ഇവിടെ വന്നിരുന്നാൽ ഞങ്ങൾ നാട്ടുകാരോടെന്ന് പറയും.
Better alone than dead. പെണ്ണായാൽ കുറച്ചൊക്കെ സഹിക്കാനൊക്കെ പഠിക്കണം. ജോലിയൊക്കെ വിട്ടിട്ട് വീടും വീട്ടുകാരെയും നോക്കുക.
ഡിവോഴ്സ് ആയാൽ നീ എങ്ങനെ ജീവിക്കും? ഒരു കുഞ്ഞായാൽ എല്ലാം ശരിയാകും.
ഇനിയും നമ്മൾ ഇതൊക്കെ തന്നെ കേൾക്കണോ? ഇനിയുള്ള തലമുറകളോടും നമ്മൾ ഇതൊക്കെ തന്നെ പറയണം.
There is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. സ്ത്രീ തന്നെയാണ് ധനം എന്ന് പലപ്പോഴും പല ഇടങ്ങളിലും പലവട്ടം ഉരുവിടുമ്പോഴും സ്ത്രീധനം എന്ന സമ്പ്രദായം ഇന്നും നിലകൊള്ളുന്നു.
Marry the girl, not money.
സാക്ഷരതയിൽ ഒന്നാമത്. എന്നിട്ടും എന്തുകൊണ്ട് ഇത്തരം വാർത്തകൾ നമ്മൾ ഇന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നു, കാണുന്നു? സാക്ഷരത വെറും വാക്കുകളിൽ ഒതുങ്ങിപ്പോവുകയാണ് നമുക്ക് ചുറ്റും.
നമ്മുടെ ചിന്താഗതി മാറേണ്ട സമയം അതിക്രമിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു എന്ന പറച്ചിലുകൾ മാത്രം. എന്നാൽ നമ്മളിലേക്ക് വിരൽ ചൂണ്ടു. സത്യത്തിൽ നാം മാറിയോ?
Life is what you make it.
പെണ്ണായതുകൊണ്ട് മാത്രം വെച്ച് വിളമ്പാൻ അറിയണമെന്നില്ല.
ആണായതുകൊണ്ട് ഇതൊന്നും ചെയ്യതുമെന്നുമില്ല.
തനിക്ക് മകളാണ് പിറന്നത് എന്നറിയുന്ന നിമിഷം തൊട്ട് അവളെ ഒരുത്തന്റെ കയ്യിൽ ഏൽപ്പിക്കുന്നതാണ് ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം, അല്ല ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ബാധ്യത എന്ന് കണക്കാക്കുന്ന ഒരു കൂട്ടം ആളുകൾ നമ്മുടെ ചുറ്റും ഇന്നും നിലനിൽക്കുന്നു. സമൂഹത്തെ ഭയന്ന് സമൂഹത്തെ സമൂഹത്തിന്റെ ചോദ്യങ്ങളെ ഭയന്ന് പെൺമക്കളെ വെറും കല്യാണ വസ്തുക്കളാക്കി മാറ്റുന്ന മാതാപിതാക്കൾ ഇന്നും നമ്മുടെ ചുറ്റും നിലനിൽക്കുന്നു.
Be a real man and respect women.
ഈ നാട്ടിൽ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരേ നിയമമുള്ളപ്പോൾ ഇന്നും പല വീടുകളിലും ആൺപെൺ വിവേചനം സാധാരണമായ ഒന്നായി നിലനിൽക്കുന്നു. No human should be left without rights.
പെണ്ണെന്നതും ഒരു വ്യക്തിയാണ്. സ്വപ്നങ്ങളും വികാരങ്ങളും ആഗ്രഹങ്ങളും ഉള്ളൊരു വ്യക്തി. തന്റെ സ്വപ്നങ്ങളെ ചിറകുകൾക്കുള്ളിൽ അടക്കിപ്പിടിച്ച് ജീവിക്കേണ്ടവളല്ല അവൾ. മറിച്ച് തന്റെ സ്വപ്നങ്ങളുടെ ചിറകുകൾ വിടർത്തി ഉയരങ്ങൾ പറക്കേണ്ടവളാണ്.
I'm a girl, I'm smart, I'm strong, and I can do anything.
സ്വപ്നങ്ങളെ നേടിയെടുക്കുവാൻ, അവളെ സ്വയം പര്യാപ്തയാക്കുവാൻ കൈത്താങ്ങാകുകയാണ് ഓരോ മാതാപിതാക്കളുടെ ഒറ്റ ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം, അഥവാ സമൂഹം പേരിട്ട് വിളിക്കുന്ന ബാധ്യത. പെൺമക്കളെ കേവലം ഒരു വിൽപ്പന ചരക്കാകാതിരിക്കുക.
സ്ത്രീധനം ചോദിക്കുന്നത് ആരായപ്പോൾ നോ എന്ന് പറയാൻ ധൈര്യം കാണിക്കുക. തന്റെ മകൾക്ക് വിലയിടാൻ ഒരുത്തരും അനുവദിക്കരുത്. അതിനവർക്ക് അവകാശമില്ലെന്ന് അവരെ ബോധ്യപ്പെടുത്തുക.
വിദ്യാഭ്യാസത്തിന് മുടക്കുന്നതിൻ്റെ 10 ഇരട്ടി കല്യാണത്തിന് ചെലവഴിച്ച് മകളെ നാട്ടുകാർക്ക് മുന്നിൽ കാഴ്ചവെക്കുന്നതാണ് അവളോടുള്ള സ്നേഹം എന്ന തെറ്റ് മാതാപിതാക്കൾ തിരിച്ചറിയണം.
Women are not for burning.
ഇനി പെൺകുട്ടികളോട്, നിങ്ങൾ ശാരീരികവും മാനസികവുമായി തയ്യാറാകുമ്പോൾ മാത്രം വിവാഹത്തെപ്പറ്റി ചിന്തിക്കുക. അല്ലാത്ത പക്ഷം വേണ്ട എന്ന് പറയാനുള്ള ധൈര്യം ഉണ്ടാക്കിയെടുക്കുക. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി നിങ്ങൾ തന്നെ ശബ്ദമുയർത്തുക.
ഈ സമൂഹത്തെ ഒന്നടക്കം മാറ്റാൻ നമുക്ക് സാധിക്കില്ല, പക്ഷേ നമ്മൾ ഓരോരുത്തർക്കും മാറാൻ സാധിക്കും.
നമുക്കും നമ്മുടെ ചുറ്റുമുള്ള സ്ത്രീകൾക്കും ഇനിയും ഒരു ദുരവസ്ഥ വരാതിരിക്കട്ടെ. അവരുടെ വീട്ടുകാർക്ക് വന്നത് നമുക്കോ നമ്മളാലോ വരരുത്. ഇനിയും മടിച്ചു നിൽക്കാതെ നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടി സംസാരിച്ചു തുടങ്ങാം.
ഇനി മാറ്റത്തിന്റെ പുതുവേളയ്ക്കായി നമുക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും അണിചേരാം.
Thank you, ma'am. And that was a great effort from the part of students. So next, we are moving on to the question answer session. The forum is now open for queries. Everyone kindly cooperate by forwarding your questions and queries in the chat box so that they can be addressed during this session. If anyone has any doubts, they can write down their questions in the chat box so that Anita ma'am can address them.
I feel so happy. Nobody has any questions. That means I was so clear.
It looks like ma'am had already cleared all the doubts. So ma'am, is there anything else?
We have one question here. What if you express your uncomfortabilities, but they will make you look like you are being mean? Okay, so this question is a very basic question, because I can just give you a general answer because I don't know what kind of situation you're talking about. So if you express your uncomfortable situation and people don't understand you, I'm sure either you are not saying it in the right way to the person who has written this, or probably what you can do is you can explain it, take time, explain it to the person whom you're trying to reach this message, or use another person to explain to them, the right person. Basically, don't use the wrong person who is part of the abuser's family or something to help them. Basically, if you look at issues within a relationship, I always feel that communication issues stand or play a very important role, because either I've always seen in the history of my practice that either the person who's at the receiving end doesn't understand what you're trying to say, or maybe this person is below the level of intelligence and you have not been able to communicate to the person in the right way, then the problem starts. So your uncomfortable situation should firstly clearly be explained. And if they're still insisting that you are mean, then I think you need to specifically take help from the concerned professional, or maybe a higher authority family member whom you can trust. I hope I'm clear. The next question is, why do you think marital rape isn't a crime? I'm not able to answer, unfortunately. I'm sorry about it. But for us, we consider marital rape as a sexual abuse. So it depends on the situation, basically. When you talk about rape, it's a very sensitive situation between in a marriage, especially because this is a basic right which any religion, any marriage would look into, of the sexual relationship. But if it's a rape, then some countries, I know for sure, do have a law which supports it and works on it. So it depends on what kind of marital rape it is. So we will have to know details to help you with a clear answer. Where does protectiveness end and abuse begin in parenting? Now, that's a very difficult question, to be honest, because I guess in parenting, there is discipline as well as love. So when you are trying to be protective, as a parent, I think you should be very specific when you talk about protectiveness, because every child is unique. And every child has their own capabilities and capacities. So what I usually tell parents when I talk is about positive parenting and how you can understand your child's need level. So basically, that is the time you will decide as a parent during the early childhood days if a child needs parenting or discipline approaches based on the behavioral tantrums or based on the behavior depicted by your child. And as a parent, I think the minute you start detaching, or you are stressed out, or you have a problem where you cannot handle your child, then becomes the abuse, where you are. So in abuse, again, for children as well, we have neglect, which is also part of abuse, where you don't care for your child, physical, emotional, verbal, and sexual. So instead of the most important thing is the neglect also, which you are here catering to. Now, if you cross the boundaries for this, and if you think if people are talking about your parenting as not normal for a child's level, then it is abuse. And moving on to the next question, because I see many questions coming up. What do you think about the role of religion in making women submissive under men? Again, it's a very difficult question to answer on a public platform. So I hope you will respect my decision, the person who has asked this question. I think every religion has their own thoughts and values embedded for all of us, whichever respective religion you belong to. And here I just would like to make a general comment. It depends on your family values more when you come to religious perspective. So based on your family values and your personal values, you decide what your religion can take for you. Therapy is a necessity in today's world. Everyone is dealing with something or the other, yet it isn't available to all. Why? Now, again, therapy, we still have a stigma, to be honest with you, wherever we are, whichever part of the world we are. So when you talk about therapy, people are mixed. Are you mentally ill? Are you sick? Or, oh, she has a problem, that's why she's going to see a counselor. So people are still, especially in a relationship issue, this also I've seen is a disadvantage to people who wants to take therapy. Sometimes I have my clients who come very quietly. They don't really make a noise about seeing a therapist. So if you don't have your partner or the person whom you're dealing with understanding the impact or the effects of positive outcome of the therapy, it is going to be difficult. Now, there is therapy, there is help, there is an organization 100% in your community or in the region where you live who will be able to give you, or an NGO basically, who will be able to give you some information. And I would suggest you as a college can make your own cell for this. Some of you could join together and find resources which can help people to find out the right kind of support. And we are professionals who are ready to be with you. The next question. What can it mean when you are having same kind of nightmares for about 6 to 8 months and sleep disorders? Now, again, this is a very personal question which you are talking about, because a sleep disorder, I don't know if you really have a disorder or it's just that you have a sleep hygiene issue that is going through. I think it's nice that you consult a professional at this point and see, maybe you can talk to a clinical psychologist or a counselor who can give you some tips or help you first we will have to assess what kind of nightmares, what is the root cause of your nightmares, what are the stressors associated for the lack of sleep or disturbed sleep that you're having. So I seriously recommend this friend who has asked this question to contact somebody who's a professional and take support. Isn't there a need for men protection forum in India to protect those men who are abused? There was recent event where a taxi driver was slapped 22 times by a woman in public. Isn't this an evidence of increase in men abuse, as there is lack of lawful support for men? I fully agree with this person who has stood up with this question. And this is the same thing I also experience most of the time when I do presentations on domestic violence. People ask me this question, why is there only law to support women? We are also going through abuse, and I do meet a lot of people in the history of my met or are meeting people, men or young boys, young adults who are men, who are going through abuse within the family situation or even within the relationship as such or the marriage as such. But yes, we do have support in most of the countries for men as well. I think it's just that, again, this could be a college initiative, I would suggest, to find resources where men also get support. And I really don't know, I'm so sorry about this, but I don't know what kind of support do you have in your organizations there for men. For us, we do cater to men. We do sit with them. We do give them equal privileges as seeking sessions, seeking therapy situations if required, or referring them for appropriate human rights a specialist from human rights to work with them and provide them a good support for the issues that they are tackling with. So I'm sure you can check or take this as a college initiative, especially after today's session. Maybe you will be inspired with a lot of ideas. So you can find out, you can make a database, you can make a small group where you can focus on this, and people could reach out to you to help other people. The next question, ma'am, marital rape is not a criminal offense under IPC. Why do you think India still hold on to this law? My previous framing question was wrong. Thank you so much. I think now it is very clear to me. Yes, I agree with you. I think, again, for me, I would say this is purely stigma. This is purely a personal value or a family value or societal value, as we rightly said in the first slide, if you remember. Societal values are still playing a very important role when we talk about abuse and try to help somebody with an abuse. So I think, we need to address this from your level of functioning, or probably you can talk to experts in this field in your region to get a better answer or better clarity. I hope you're okay with this answer. Thank you again. Thank you. Someone has thanked me for expressing my opinion. Thank you very much. Why is men's salary an issue in case of marriage and dowry? And dowry is not. Isn't it right to ignore both dowry and salary of man at the same time? Example, women's family choose their son-in-law while his salary with a salary in mind. Yeah, that's quite funny. I think even if we do millions of programs advocating for such things, these are again something which I'm very sorry to remark as being the cultural or the societal attitude. And it is, I think, people like the younger generation, who should stand up, and we adults are with you for always. I'm sure you will find adults like me around you who will help you advocate for this. And I'm sure we all together should start changing it. But personally, I loved the video because I saw many things which I echoed, which I had not seen the video at all before prior to my session, and everything was so rightly put in the video. And I loved those guys who came up and said, so I think this is the first step we need to do to answer this question. So you guys stand up and take your counterparts from the opposite sex to understand this, and together I think we could make a difference. What about the gender discrimination in schools and colleges, even for the clothes you wear? I'm so sorry, this is a college webinar. I might not be able to answer this question because I have your Reverend Fathers management, senior management, but generally I could say that, you need to make a policies, and I'm sure Amu ma'am and Tanya ma'am will definitely stand by this group here to help you make small amendments within the given policies. It's not that this question is addressed to Amu ma'am or Tanya ma'am, definitely not. It is just a general opinion that I'm talking about here.
Please don't target both of them after my talk or run to them from the college zones saying that Anita had suggested this. Never. I'm only saying that you should find adults who are within their frame of authority. And definitely we all have rules and regulations which we need to follow, because you're still part of an educational institution. You're not at a party or or at a picnic to wear what you want. There are certain norms, and I think that's a personal value basically also. So it's all left to you to preserve your values the way you think, and every person is unique, I believe, and different, but it's a mandatory, my opinion is it's mandatory to follow the norms and regulations when you are associated with an educational institution. Amu ma'am, Tanya ma'am, I hope I'm clear about it. Thank you so much. I see a very, very motivating thank you message here with a lot of smileys in thumbs up and strong fighting for the cause we are talking about. Thank you very much. So I think we are at the end of it, Rajagiri.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am, for the valuable session. And it was our pleasure that we got a chance to spend some quality time with you.
Thank you very much for all those lovely words, lovely messages, and I hope we will all join hands together. So today, as you get out of this session, please understand each of you have taken up this additional responsibility because of this beautiful department who conducted this session for you. All the organizers will stand by in taking this forward, I'm sure. And I'm also going to be there from a distance, so you can contact Amu ma'am or Tanya ma'am or Naina, because I'm closely associated with them. If you require any more support from me, I'm sure they would definitely help you with it. Thank you very much once again. Have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. I now invite Jesslyn Nicholas of M1T second year to deliver the word of thanks.
Good afternoon to all. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this event. Let me first of all start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making today's event a resounding success. My heart is filled with lots of gratitude and respect for distinguished guest Ms. Anita Sunil for not only sharing her valuable time for us, but also enlightening us with a commendable talk on the subject. Thank you, ma'am, for clearing our concept and enhancing our understanding pertaining to it. It was great to understand about domestic abuse and its risk and prevention in a wider manner. Once again, thank you, ma'am, for this useful and brief section. In addition, I take this opportunity to thank the director of our college, Reverend Father Dr. Matthew Vatathara CMI, Principal Reverend Father Ajesh Pudusheri CMI, and our HOD, Amu ma'am, and also our faculty coordinators, Tanya ma'am and Ichida ma'am, for taking the effort to arrange a useful event for our understanding. Along with it, I also thank the student coordinators, Ms. Darshana and Ms. Naina, for their efforts behind this event. Last but not the least, I thank you all my friends for your cooperation in making the event a useful one. Finally, I leave you this inspirational quote by Albert Einstein. A ship is always safe in its shore, but that is not what it is built for. Once again, I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesslyn.
Thank you, Jesslyn. Please note that a feedback form has been sent to your chat box. Kindly fill the same through your official ID to ensure your attendance. Also note that the feedback form is only for the students.
With that, we have come to the end of today's program. We hope the session was very much informative for each and everyone. Thank you all for your wholehearted cooperation. Hope to see you again next time. Have a great day.
Dr. Narita, ma'am, I request you to stay back and I would like the others to kindly leave the meeting. Thank you.